Good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me again. My name is Cozy and I'm a volunteer with the In Limbo project. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. I'll be talking about the human cost of Brexit and its impact on those who exercised EU treaty rights. So thank you very much for inviting me back. It is almost 2 years to the day since you very kindly let me tell you about the In Limbo project. So I will just give a quick reminder before looking at what's been going on in the last 2 years and how things are now. It's a bit of a game of two halves. So today, at first, I will talk about how things are and where we are at now, and then I will have some slides to talk through as well. The slides, Gavin says, is going to send out after the session because there's lots of really useful links in them, so you can do some more background reading or look things up. So the In Limbo project is not for profit. Everything we do is voluntary work, and I'm not here to speak just about myself, but I represent many others. First and foremost, of course, the 300 contributors to our books, 150 in Limbo, Brexit testimonies from EU citizens in the UK, and about another 150 in Limbo too, Brexit testimonies from UK citizens in the EU. And as you can see, when you put the two covers together, they form mirror images, because we've done mirroring journeys. We are flip sides of the same coin and we are twins. And also they form a family, because that's what we are, a European family. So there's the 300 contributors to our two books, about 60 people who trusted us with their testimonies and updates on our website, roughly 685 who sent us short, poignant messages, which we published online as voices, 4,420 members of our Facebook group, and most importantly, those who share our fate but cannot raise their voice. We represent only a small sample of more than 6 million EU citizens in the UK and approximately 2 million British citizens in the EU who are still, in a way, in limbo. It's a relative term, as there are many aspects in which we now have a degree of certainty. We know who has what rights under the withdrawal agreement, and more than twice as many people as expected applied to the EU settlement scheme, most of them before the deadline in 2021. But 2 years on, many are still making late applications. Many were left behind. Of course, the most vulnerable in society, such as people in coercive relationships, children, disabled or illiterate people. And we don't yet know whether this will cause them problems in the future when they may be deemed to have been in violation of immigration rules in the interim. So this is an improvement from the times when we were not able to plan for the future because we didn't know what our rights would be a single week ahead, but it's still a far cry from any sense of certainty or safety and security. So our work continues as Brexit continues to negatively affect people. We continue to focus on the human side and aim to touch hearts and open minds by giving a voice to individuals and highlighting that while there are common themes, each story is as unique as the human being it belongs to. The last time we saw each other was the 22nd of June 2021, and that was Windrush Day, which is also relevant to many EU citizens, such as myself, who had their status confirmed under the Windrush scheme, because we've been here since before 1989. And later this month will be the 75th anniversary of the arrival of the Empire Windrush, which should make us reflect on whether any lessons were learned from the Windrush scandal and consider whether with the EU settlement scheme, we're heading for a new Windrush 2.0 on steroids with knobs on. What a funny twist of history that the day after Windrush is the anniversary of that referendum, the effects of which we are still unfolding 7 years on and which turned all our lives topsy-turvy. The last time I spoke to you, we were entering the last week of the grace period with the deadline for EU citizens to apply to the EU settlement scheme on the 30th of June 2021. My team and I worked flat out to ensure that we got as many applications submitted as possible. We triaged ruthlessly and made the tough choice to defer all applications for children under the age of 15 to July. That age was not a random choice. We prioritized those who might need to apply for student finance in the future when they would have to show that they were lawfully resident in the UK for the last 3 years before applying to university. We didn't want to find anybody in a position where, they were 18-year-old applying to university and not having a status for 10 days in 2021 caused them a problem. And prevented them from being able to access student finance. So there we were. We had to think ahead of for our clients who were in no position to guess what the future would hold for them, or even to gauge what the impacts could be. So I will never forget how at 9 p.m. that evening, our task list was empty for the first time since I started the project in 2019. And I told the rest of my team to log off while I completed my last in-time application, submitted at midnight on the 30th of June, 2021 for a young lady with Italian citizenship. We did work right up to the last minute on this and carried on with late applications the next day. It is tempting to think that Brexit is done. People are settled with their new immigration status under the EU settlement scheme, and everybody knows by now what the new parameters are, but nothing could be further from the truth. Just last month, well, actually, she called me again today. So for the last month, I should say, a friend and former client called me, whom I had assisted with completing the EUSS application in 2019. She's trying to open a new bank account and struggling to prove her rights to the bank because the bank managers do not understand that the status is digital only and there's no physical proof, unlike in the EU and EEA countries where Brits are at least given residence cards. So this, after my team and I spent many hours teaching this lovely 65-year-old how to navigate the government website. Last week, I posted in our Facebook group to ask how people are feeling about Brexit 7 years after the vote. Within one day, I had well over 300 replies. We're over 400 now. Clearly, Brexit is still very much a topic to be discussed and far from over. Many expressed their sense of relief because they have left the UK on their own Brexodus, and now they watch in horror from afar, feeling calmer and safer now that they have left. And for some, the numerous little inconveniences add up to a soul-crushing death by a million paper cuts as they have to navigate immigration systems and are reminded of how Brexit assaults their European identities. Each time they have to pay a customs charge for a parcel from Granny, which takes longer to arrive, or wait at the UK border, or have problems getting a job or renting or accessing healthcare because they now have to prove their immigration status. For most, the sense of bitterness, resentment, hurt, and betrayal is unchanged. In many cases, it has worsened over the years, and there is a consensus of darkness, sadness, bereavement, uncertainty, pessimism, and anger, and little to no forgiveness for those who voted to leave the EU. And no, rejoining, and I really don't like the re before the word joining here, will not fix it. Before the UK can apply to join, it has to fix itself and become a country suitable for EU membership. And that starts with stopping the violations of human rights. We find it hard to trust. We're reluctant to make friends in case they turn out to be leavers, and there are still many worries, especially for elderly and disabled people. Without physical proof that we have the right to live, work, and rent in the UK, discrimination has increased massively, especially in terms of employment, making it harder to get a job or stay sane in your place of work. And banking, making it more difficult to open a bank account or get a mortgage. And travel abroad has become a lot more difficult and stressful. There is also open hostility against EU citizens in the UK media and government announcements. Many have been verbally or physically attacked, repeatedly told to get out of the UK, but there's no support to go back to our country of origin if we're destitute here due to lack of employment. Even those who naturalized as British citizens don't really feel any safer for it or that they belong more. What is home is still a recurring question, and some members had conversations with the Samaritans. There was the lady who left in 2020 and was separated from her husband for 3 years until he could join her. And there have been a few divorces. And then last week, there was the moment I found out about the fate of a young man who had contributed to our first book together with his mum, speaking about their plans to move to the EU in 2017, which they did. He was 21 years young in 2019 when he could not bear it any longer and took his own life. And what is worse is that I know that this was neither the first nor the last Brexit suicide.